Dorje Chanchen Te Lo Na Ro San Ma Ba Me La Che Je Gam Bo Ba Te San She Cha Gun Chen Karmapa Che Je Chong Je Yo Ban Zen Na De Sa Sa San Ban Den Do Ba So Sa Long Cha Ja Che La Nga Nye Be Nya Me Do Ga Sa Bo Ga Ju La So Wan De So Ga Ju La Ma Yo Ba Ze No Nam Tha Chen Je La Shen Lo Gong Je Gong Ma Song Ba Ye Se No Gong La Sha Ye Me Ba Sang Sen De Che Be Gong Chen La Nyan Bo Shen Ba Me Ba Shen Je Lo Ma Ge Gong Je Bo Me Na Te Go Je Be La Ma La Jon Do So Wan De Be Gong Chen La Yo Men Ma Ge Je Wa Chen Je La Ying Me Gong Jing Je Song Ba Ye Kan Sha La Do Me Ngo Wo So Ma Te Ma Je De Gan Yo Be Gong Chen La Gam Ja Lo Dan Tra Wa Chen Je La Nam Do Ngo Wa Che Ga Song Ba Che Ya Ma Yen Che Le Ya Cha Wa La Mang Ga Do Ba Cha We Gong Chen La Khon De Yer Me Do Ba Chen Je La Che Wa Con Da Yang Da La Ma Dong Ra Me Che Je Ba La Long Je Jing Sa Da Lang Je Yang De Ra Do Ne Dorje Change Gong Nyor Do Sang Je Che Tan So Je Cho Na Lai Chan Cho Pa Do Da Ne Jiao Su Da Ge Gyamtso Chancho Bardor Tulku Gyamtso Semjen tamje dewa tan deve jodan dembara jorje dunga dan dunga je jodan tawara jorje dunga mebe dewa tamba tamme dawara jorje nyeren chadan nyedan tawe Tonyam Jembola Nebjudan Dembara Jorje Dunga Jejudan Tawara Jorje Dunga Mebe Dewa Dambata Mendawara Jorje Nyeden Chadan Yedan Rab Tonyam Jembola Nebara Jorje Semjen damje dewa don deve judan dambara jorje dunga je judan trawara jorje dunga mebe dewa tamba Yedrawara jorje nyeren chadan yedan rak Tonyam Jambola Nebara Jorje Datan Simjen Tamje Lo Chuzon Rawara Jinje Lamdosa Chulamdon Rawara Jinje Lamdosa Lamdromba Sawara Jinje Lamdosa Churba Yeshe Son Jawara Jinja Lando So Dadan Senjan Damja Lo Chuzon Dawara Jinja Lando So Chulando Dawara Jinja Lando So Lam Churba Sawara Jinja Lando So Yeshe So Jawara Jinja Lando So Dada Senjan Damje Lo Chuzan Dowara Jinja Lando So Jelando Dowara Jinja Lando So Lam Churba Sawara Jinja Lando So Churba Yeshe So Jawara Jinja Lando So Oh yeah Yonja no John Zon Pe Ma Ke Sar Dombo La Yansen Choke Godanye Pe Ma Jone She So Ta Kora To Kando Mambo Kora Che Je Je Da La She So Ne Chon De Ro Jembo Lo Do Da La Wan Je Gor Ge Da Lo De Pa Che Se Cho Da Dom Om Hon Ben Guru Bema Zide Om Hon Ben Guru Bema Sarva Sindhi Balahum Arima Hare Nisa Ranza Hreya Zeta Renza Rugan Run Doso Yela Konge Padra Rigbe Dorje Shaolan Gerchan Sara Pandin Save Lama Rinpoche Dage Jewara Pende Denyo Kadin Chembe Gone Jizon De Kosong Toge Ngodo Tado Son Nanya number Samala, Hado delays in the Shiatang. Nanga Tata Nyambe, Semje Tamje, Laname Bayan Tapa Zop, Sanje Kamata Barcha, Tei Chadola, Tambe Chusamashugi, Nyambe, Kono Chanjam Chodo Tokene, Sano Nas, Tenitella, Takan, Sembarchavi Chune, Anasoge, Tate Chinge, Tanda, Ladu. Mountain show yard. Then it tell a cherry tangaran so take by chamber. Then none somehow dodgy tape lam la show savage. Takanzanda was in. Then it Gyamtso that's also like choga jepa dupa kande. Tan hondo in show. Kande yagi young. Then take a capsule like Sanjay Chuda so in Honama. Show sinking down. Te Mayinayanta, Choga Sosuke, Gyamtso, Tatu Gendola, Yimada Vajra. Tatain to Capsula, Tatige, Kabla, Montune, Tat, Yakona, Japson Doatan, Chanchom Chodo, Sem Japanda, what the two, Jondola, Nawayina, Tene, calmness, flower, major, good and kind, your mind, send the song. Te in the Capsula. Ta Yane Yantola Gyamtso Shendong Song. Yane Yantola Song Tayang, Ta Netok Manen Domanda, what a Mandavache. Tayang Kona take down, in the Damala, some of Tang, Gendola Sosu Geta, Tige Semjet Tella. At a big Tony and the dead of what you no, some big Tony, on a Tanege. Ta Jig Song Tobayina, then on a Tanege, Pena, Concho Son, Japson Doatan, Chanchon Cho the same Jiba, Nikate, Sosu Jula, Yani, Yandola, Comdo, Ditini, Lesabo, Davo Jigla, Sosu Samlo Tan Tobanda, what you younger day. Te Chua Yina, then on a Tanege, Nejam, Menching Davo, Tajatange. Chanchok Sam Sinkin Tella, then Yat the Mepeke, Sonam so part the Mepa. Yes, so Pame Chujan, then Sonam Cho, Yumi Chebala Pendos in the Tedech and the Sonyamari. Dosha Nyando Kangi Cholam La Yenayang, then it tabu Chanchok Sam te, then Yani Yandola Kone Converge down Tobayina. Tening on Randon la Yena Yang, Tenita Chepatum Papa Yodi, Yandon la Yena Yang Chepatum Papa Yodi. Randon la Chepatum Papa Kari Yodi Sena, Slappa Lam de Shopege Kabla, Nankan Tata Yum, Semjetum, Laname Bayanta, Bazob Sanjak Komata Barcha, De Chetola Tan Sosuke, Chanchok Semje, Debe Sanja, the Chanjo Simbatum Jege. Cheddar Jebata, the Jeggy, Yambegata, Mambata, and Yopeg, Chanjo, Semche, the Zerba Latine, Tenin Deb, Sanja, the Chanjo, Semba, Tom Jeggy, Cheddar, Chanjo, the two Jebeg, Lam Tella, Rangi Yang, Unetanic, Jason Yogi Yorella, then Yoba Latine, Sosuke, Dumba Tang, Sanja, the Chanjo, Semba, Tom Jeggy, Malong, top Telatine. Sapa Lam the Shuba Capsula, Tato Sanjay compound the Janjo Simba Comba, Tapala Kam and Sige, Nuruk Pento Chambo Yorella, Ta Kasi, Chancho Sem, Don't Tambe Chancho Sem, on the Chulbek Capsula, Ta Jumena, Savon Mena, Tene Koran, also Gonda, Jumena, Devil Minion Patient La, Jo Chancho Sem Rinpoche, the Sosuki Jula. Sorry, Yendo la Mine, Tonam Chanjok Sem the one the Majora Yena, Tene Sem Jen Yen Tamjela Pain, taught to begin Nipanda with the social Yomari. Te Medu Capsula, that pain tago Samba Yenayam, Tene Tanda Koro de Kona Honduk Nana, Maladume Chucheva, and the song about it, 10 double. Tene Semje Tamjela, Loborto, Jinghinge da Jewa Yenayam, Tene Jung Honson, Mapa Latin, Tene Tela Tembek, Tene Telenda the Jesogomari. That data was Mayimba Jegatone Tanda, Lam the Shuba Capson, and Tenejim Honum Tepson Ayena, Mount Palatona, Chanjok Sem, on the Chusaba Capsula, Tene Julaman the Son Tadola. Tene Tommy and Dodon Zay, Senator, that's also can Delan Dodon checking in Delan Dodon checking me some Lega check over top of Mayimpa, ranking, Gelunga, some te, Chanchoke chose, that yes, on that Chanchoke chose, Mamba Chabatella Tene, Ta Kora and Devo, Ranchoke, Tenizotopa. Lunga ye some hanga Tony in and Nubata Demba the young Togu Yori. Then they tell you to Capsula Te, Tato Toki, now the sound now.
Good morning, everyone. Please listen with the motivation of bodhichitta, which is the thought that all beings throughout space must achieve perfect Buddhahood, and that it is in order to bring that about that you will listen to the profound and holy Dharma. We are going to continue this morning with our study of the gurusadhana of Terchen Barway Dorje. For practitioners of the Mahayana, and especially of its branch, the Vajrayana, all of our practice starts with taking refuge and generating bodhicitta. Even when we listen to teachings, we begin by reciting a short stanza of refuge and bodhicitta. And each and every practice liturgy that we recite, the preliminary practices and all the other liturgies we chant, all begin with these two elements. Now, at first it may seem difficult to pay attention to the meaning of what you are chanting. In fact, you may get used to chanting it somewhat by rote or automatically. But if you put a little bit of effort into paying attention to the meaning of the refuge vow and generation of bodhicitta whenever you practice, then that little bit of effort will ensure that as you go on day after day and year after year chanting it, you will, far from becoming mindless and reciting it like a parrot chanting Om Mani Padme Hum, you will become ever more mindful of the meaning, and it will become more heartfelt. And this is true because, as is said, there is nothing that will not become easy through accustomation or familiarity. So if you can practice in that way, putting the little bit of effort that is needed in order to keep in mind the meaning of what you are reciting, then this simple act of reciting the vow of refuge and the generation of bodhicitta at the beginning of every practice or study session will become the best medicine for your life. Especially the merit of bodhicitta, even one moment of bodhicitta, is said to be greater than the scope of all space. It seems, therefore, that our repeated generation of and reinforcement of bodhicitta is the best way we can help ourselves and others. We help ourselves because when we generate bodhicitta in emulation of all past Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, when we say, I generate the intention to achieve perfect Buddhahood in order to liberate others, just as all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas have generated that intention, and I will engage in the stages of training needed in order to achieve that Buddhahood, just as all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas have done. When we make those aspirations, take those vows, we join our own aspiration, our own intention, our own purpose with those of all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, which means that the power of their aspiration, now shared by us, enters into ours. And it is this that ensures that when in the future we achieve Buddhahood, which those who generate bodhicitta will definitely, that our activity will be vast. You can't have a result without its cause having preceded it. So therefore, without the generation of bodhicitta, it is impossible for us to achieve the awakening that we call the generation or discovery of absolute bodhicitta. And without absolute bodhicitta, the result of relative bodhicitta, we will never have the ability to really help others effectively. We will be powerless, like a mother who, without arms, watches helplessly as her child drowns. Mere sporadic compassion arising in specific situations is not enough for us to be really effective in helping others. On the other hand, if caused by relative bodhicitta, we do discover absolute bodhicitta, we will not even have to think about how to help others. Our help for others will be spontaneous, natural, automatic, with body, speech, and mind. So please keep this intention in mind as you listen to the teachings.
Ngabane, tene, meche, donshu tapo, kata mai para, hing tapane, ta lama, jambo kindaba song yori. Te yindu kapsala, ta ngaba lama jambo kindaba tela, tene, Meche Donshu Tabu Songare, Meche Donshu Tabu said to Capsula, Tening one Tanegi, Hing Dingni, Katam Maimpa Songarita, Kani Jatangita, Tepai Yopek Sol, Sowan Depek Sol, Mugu Jebek Sonda Watching and answer singing, Sojo singing the Chegona, Chick Leshabo, dashing an answer Samala Yores, telling Kepanda what Yores. Ta taba maimba cheke yi miche be donku se de kapsula semne zola me be donku da ba ngone tane lama tela ta ke ta dongyang ge to ne so wa ji tab ya ba ma to cheke ta me ban da bo miche be donku ta bo ke to ne ta ka tang ge te ga sa ke ya ba maimba so zu ge hin ta pa ne Lama la che si prepare, sta che ho se ne tina la yore, tin di caso la che scende lama la pene. Ta da la gon si quisleto ho si sone, sta che ho se de lama la che scende pone ta ngala gono nang se ne ho scende. Tene prepare si sone cola tana giane, lu tovoro chepe gosam. Ye Zon Soan de Pechers, that Lamic Cotella, Sosuke Tana Janes, that Lamicola Tana Jane, somebody Careri, Sena, Pena Lamate, Tene Cora, that tropical number of pay over it. Tropical number of pepe capsula, that Naran Sotan, Samba, Tene Julu Shatala top jabba number. Yum yonkin, Jeting come de la Conata, Masan de la Tomba de Yam de Yum de Senatangone, can announce the Doje, making him Bicata, Sonda, which then Angioris. Te now capsula, Doje, make announce you can do shake, Doje, metric, number vote, then I on the capsula, Lamate, Zamzamla, took Jebig number. Zamzamla takes a two majeb number. Zamzamla and Drake number. Zamzamla Mandik number to 10 tengaries. The Martina in Masoa Menkari and Agua. Majula Khan, Chedan and Drake Ding Soa Menkari, Donatati, can't come making vegetable and our race, a mato, Tati Metala on a yontendo, so the same Marwa. Te in the capsule attending around Sola Lama, the singing number the younger yoris. Te yong Junsen la ten, that Lamic the button care, that was it now in a young. Tenete on a tane, so suge, tene, sure Lambden do la pemba, tene on a tane, Lord chosen do la pemba. Te tabug zange kange ka now in a young. Te tabori, some big takora, Lamic cook, joba candage, that shidak number candage, temba yena. Tela Tana Jang Senate, take on a Tana te, Teni Jama Yena, Jama Tatula, Lamike, Teni Chanap Kare Yobat Sosola, Juk to the Yontin Yungi, Tetabola, Teni Tana Jang Senate, Tana Jane, Lutz over Chip Gosam Jesus was, that che Lute. On a tanegata, look gone so joba, Majin Balemba, Mazama joba last of Gatini, Lang Embate Yonzo, de Lula Tene, Jungi Yobe, Chena, that looked over Jobe. Gossam said the Talunga is some Chalpa Sendawadi, Gossam Jesus on so on Depe and Depe Chiller, Rang and Luigi Gone, Kupek Gone, Sal. Kupe chada che dacha ki minghar rikwa Yeshe chewu lamara nawande nyamdo tang cholam ne kapsan tanyang sta sosu ke dongla nawe ke ta rikwa Yeshe ki chewu sena ngone thane ke ta yolu shata ke namba dabo jita samgendo sipa nyewar sunga la tene Tomari Mato, one Coraton, young tap and water, require Yeshe Jewu Sena, so surrounded by Yeshe, on the journey, taken Nepal ton some gen to step and Yavara song of capsula, you look Shatake, Lunganasala, Yopateta, the Latin to be Nipata Demba, Yimbichana, then Yomdo, Jolam, near Gabson, Tunya, that child ship the capsula, ship Devo, Davo, then it Jolam Tonzo Yenaya. Make it Jolon Kare, Yamba Yanaya, Teta was dead, then can Teta was Yoba the thing, and Yondo that Jolom neck ups and Tomba Yana Yang. Yampin than Hinge so Takam get up the Yontin, so Tomba majority that Teta guitar, Yondo, Jet Jolom Chendo Yoba the Yana Yang, Yen Parapola Pembe, Pensimta. Ninja Tang, that ten I think so, Saber Capsulata, you think Yin Kanda Khan, Yamate Tomjete, Tagum said that Tawatang, or taking the Gomba said the Lama take it, Gombek Yonting, told you la Kari about the Tomjete, Yonsuzoba, Tomjetang, a jet up the Yonting, start your dangy Yonting, Singetella, Gyamtso Yonting Tang. Chỉ thâu cái yon tiền sen này dùng cái yon đấy, Gyamtso cái yon tiền sen cái thế, ta so sự cái son du tang, set up tang, mưa pa tang, cứ ba chém cái quan này, ông ấy tang này ta chơi là giang ba so dùng một cặp số là, thế nên ông ấy tang này cái dùng, gọi là dùng trên job gì là số ba ta cái đấy tang đó, xe có cái yon này, thế tham chế để xe tập ba thế, Gyamtso cái yon tiền tang. Chỉ tóc cái yon tiền sử dụng một cặp số là ta chế bộ tầm bát tham chế là, chế vào xe là này xong rồi set up tham chế đó, yang số là quay chế vào number na số bảy chế bị cái ta có ra thu chú cái yon tiền cả, yêu bảo chế tham chế để ráng cái có ra thu chú là ta có ra tâm này yêu bảo chế là chế thấp chế yon tiền số Somebody majority start that I will get up with yon deck on a yoba teta to nam the young pen and ten to Maris. Sa Jawa nam yet daja yes zone cher rokon haman the bayin Jawa dop sanje ta kona yang tapa nam ji tangaran so doja semjin yes zone with chedola. Then it's so good number la now on the bar. Yeno, Yambing, Yeshe, Goni, Mugutang, Seve, Pai, Pujang by Jeans, Seve, that Sevege, Shandonaja, Sem Sevege, Pamake, Puju Yang by Gento, Suji Chake, Stakora, Suji Shembuke, Semjen Tomjela, near the Chatan the travel, Suji Shembuke, Tuksewa Shembuke, Chatake. And then Jeka Nanche, Shimar, son le Japal, Soa Dabatang, son la Tana Yang, not so Chupe, Gosum, Jesus zone, so taken the la, then la make a cade, somebody in a young. Ta song de la Tana Yang, not so Chupe, Gosum, Jesus on survey. Chegere, don't show tabo, daso, dover, Yeshe, Sodo, Stanyan, the Shin said that top Lama the topic of Sodo la, Zangin, Najo, Sonum, Sombartayang, Stapena, Zambu Tamina, Nyembe Tamina, Yapon Recto, Mendo Savatavata, Karina. He also saw about some jetting, and answer Sama, the Chipanda, which is Songuyoba, then Tombanda young, Tomada, which is your day. Yenaya turned ye Chane, Doyon la Zonzi, Ante, Ranga, Main Cheddar, Tam Cage Goni, Tam Cage Goni, Tuji Chimbu. Tuji Chembun Century, Yembe, Yeshe, Soa, Dape, Tahim, Keche, Tanya, Mepa, Mai, Podu, Jangba Tara, Chopal, Soan de Batang, Tola, Tana, Yang, Simjin Soul, Chubagosum, de Pamato, Gondo, Tugin, Zimbar, Soa Yang, Range, Sedon, Kito Reto Tang, Zangi Dente Jito, Chajinje, Number, Tanang Sanda Nyambatan Hanya, Ante Teso Tang, Taba Chu, Tamche, Melam Tang, Yuma Tower, Zikir, Doje, Oro, Tuncho, Chamjonge, Dodon, Yinge, Lama Sanjes, Yichene, Hingon Ribetene, Chichoto, Sova Dape, Yana, Chasan,
Lare, Gajere.
Lame tone de Sun Rang Sem Hebe, Tade Ni to Tabe, Lama Tang, Lama Ransem Yeme Tam, Tui Jingli, Gajin Dawa Mepa, Sumi Tenji Jab Tang, Gondon Deba Sova, Deba De, Benan Chense Nebe Dani. Sab Lama Chola, Jenze Lepan Tong, Jason Semar Jason Seman Zembe, Nekap so Lame Chapto, Goto so Nyepandop, Ranjong, Jumeche Mugu, Zome Jebe, Tato Lame Chanam Hila Shone, Chotunge, Ngodu Samu, Lato, Sonde, Lama Dojen Changchembo Compa, Ngondu Cheba Shoji Bao.
Pachang Tsawa Drawa, the Sene Lana
Beapon, Lando.
Data Cherigite, it's a Chung Sondoa, Karajin, it's about you really at this point. Then in the Narangite, it's Cheritona, in a Narangi Kang about Ramushe Kanson by Kakazona. So now we come to the fifth part of the main body of the practice, which is prayer. And in describing this, Rinpoche went through the commentary and added his own comments. But in adding his own comments, he kind of was, he didn't overstate things because it could be seen again as self-aggrandizing. So I'll explain things a little more clearly, but I'll try and keep what he said and my own nonsense separate so you don't get mixed up. The prayer here is concerned with our perception, our attitude of our living guru. And the issue is that in order to have access to Dharma, to have access to Dharma, Buddhas and Bodhisattvas have to appear among us in our own species, looking like us, able to communicate with us, and so on. The upside of that, of course, is that we can learn Dharma from them and receive their blessing directly. The problem, what inhibits this process, is that we tend to assume that anyone who looks and acts anything like us is no better than us. And this is simple, simply because we cannot imagine what we haven't experienced. It's not that we're bad or nasty or negative or anything, but you cannot imagine something that is beyond your experience. So, in Tibetan they call it tsurtangilo, a self-reflective mindset. You can't imagine what you haven't seen. You can combine two different things you've seen into an image of something, but you can't imagine something completely different. So when we look at someone else who has a one head and two arms and two legs and eats and sleeps and whatnot, we cannot help but having this underlying assumption that they're just like us. So the prayer here is designed it is a prayer to the Guru, but it is also talking to yourself and reminding yourself to question that assumption. So the prayer is roughly divided into dealing with our attitude, our projections on the Guru's body, speech, and mind. The first section, I'll read the prayer itself and then we'll start looking at the commentary. First section is Kyeho or Cheho. In this boundless realm of Dharmata, you, my Guru, are emanated by Samantabhadra, the Dharmakaya. Although to my water bubble eyes, water bubble eyes is simply a description of the physical eyes. Our eyes are basically, like bubble things, membranes filled with goo. Although to my water bubble eyes you appear as a Rupakaya with material flesh and blood, you are not my peer, an ordinary friend who does ordinary things. It is certain that you are a Rupakaya displayed by the victors, Buddhas, in order to care for beings. My faith and devotion are more than verbal. I prostrate to you or salute you and pray to you with respect. Reach out with the long arm of your love, my only Father, my kind Guru. Okay. Now, what you are trying to do in reciting this prayer is remove the inhibitions within you that inhibit or prevent you from having what in the commentary is called the fierce longing of unreserved faith. Unreserved faith, Rinpoche said, means that you're not holding anything back. There's no sense of, well, I have faith in you provided you do what I want. I have faith in you provided you behave according to my prejudices and assumptions, but not otherwise. That's reserved faith, conditional faith. Fierce longing means that this is unbearable. Unbearable not in the sense of pain, but in the sense of something you cannot do nothing about. Fierce longing of faith is when your faith is so great that it screams for articulation. You have to pray. You have to do something. You have to express it in some way. You can't remain stone-faced and impassive. However, Rinpoche said, we need to beware of our tremendous skill at dissimulation. We are all masters of pretense. It's very easy for us, he said, to look at others, see how they're behaving, and fake it. So we see other people bowing and scraping and kowtowing and constantly looking like this. And we pick that up, we emulate it, and so that's not faith. That's conformity to a perceived social norm, which is entirely unrelated to faith, even to respect. Respect is not a matter of bowing and scraping necessarily. It's something within the heart. So then, with the fierce longing of unreserved faith, call your Guru. And so this prayer is a type of prayer, Rinpoche said, that's called crying to the Guru from afar. Crying means like a child who is in a crisis, like they've fallen down or whatever, and is crying for their mother or father. From afar means that you're calling with a loud voice, not timidly. You're not thinking, it's not afar in the sense that you feel that there's some distance between you and the Guru, but you're not whispering. Your priorities are such that you'll make a lot of noise. You definitely want the Guru's attention. So there's a sense of even, we could even, not maybe desperation is not the best word, but it's kind of almost the best word. So then with the fierce longing of unreserved faith, call your guru, not just with your mouth, but from your heart. So don't just recite the prayer because you think it's what you're supposed to do, or you do it every day and you just mumble your way through it, but really mean it. And you call your guru initially with the first syllable, which is kye or che in Tibetan, which is the equivalent of the Sanskrit hey and the English hey, actually. Not in the sense of dry grass, but in the sense of, you know, hey, please pay attention to me. Then the second syllable, ho, ask him to think of you by saying ho. So in other words, when you say kye ho, you are trying to get your guru's attention. Now, the next section, the section of the prayer that I read, is concerned with your attitude toward your body. You address your guru, you're talking to your guru, but in a sense you're also talking to yourself. You're reminding yourself about your potential for projections. With a pure outlook toward his body. What does pure outlook mean? Rinpoche said pure outlook means suspending projections and assumptions, being willing to concede that there might be things greater than what you know, that there might be more out there. So not automatically assuming that everybody is just like you. Because we know how much garbage there is in our minds. Therefore, we tend to impute the same garbage to everyone else, but they may not have it. So with a pure outlook toward his body, pray that he care for your three gates, your body, speech, and mind, the gates through which you relate to the world, especially your body. Now, Rinpoche said, what is this about a pure outlook toward the Guru's body? To communicate with us, in order to teach us and live among us and teach us Dharma, the Guru has to be born in the same species. So the Guru will always have parents, and therefore family history, genetic components in his physical and so on makeup. And because in that sense, he's very much like us. We have parents, he had parents. We have one head, he has one head. You know, we eat, he eats. It's very easy for us to slip into projecting our own stuff onto the Guru and assuming that he knows no more than we do, has realized no more than we have, and is no better than we are. So the idea is to let go of those limitations, those limiting assumptions. With respectful physical salutation, think that this being of awareness wisdom who appears to your eyes as your Guru, although you presently treat him as a peer because he seems to live as you do, is not your peer. Now, if your Guru is authentic, if he or she is the real thing, they are not like you. And this is the thing that Rinpoche wasn't going to, he kind of downplayed this. A real Guru cannot be an ordinary person. Ordinary people are not entitled to be gurus or call themselves gurus. We can say Lama this, Lama that, that's fine. But if you're going to be a guru, where you're actually taking responsibility for keeping people out of lower states, you better have some real realization. Title alone is not enough. You have to be the real thing. You have to have the goods. Otherwise, you can't save people. In Phoenix, Rinpoche was teaching, and he said, you know, when you're a guru, you are taking responsibility for what happens to people after they die. If you can't pull them up, they are going to pull you down, really. So becoming a guru is not something that we should want. It's something they have to do. They have no choice, you know. So if your guru is the real thing, they are not like you. They're different. They were born intentionally, but they will, it's going to explain in other ways how they're different. But they will look like you. You know, the same species, the same type of body, probably eat the same type of food. And so you have to deal with the tendency to project. And an authentic guru is, as it says in the commentary, a being of awareness wisdom. It's actually where a Buddha manifests as an emanation or incarnation, appearing as an ordinary being in order to communicate with us. We can't communicate with deities. We can't communicate with a Sambhogakaya. You know, we need somebody who looks and talks like us. So, but in what ways is our guru not our peer? Especially in this country, we don't like to hear that somebody's not our peer. He is not your peer in that he is altruistic. An authentic Nirmanakaya never acts for selfish reasons. In fact, we could stop there because that's the most important difference. We are all deep down fairly selfish. Nirmanakayas are not. They're not selfish. Compassionate, and was born with the qualities of view and meditation, because an authentic Nirmanakaya is the incarnation or emanation of a Buddha. He brought some of that through the process of conception, gestation, and rebirth. So an authentic Nirmanakaya and a real guru has to be, whether they have the title or not is a separate thing, but they have to be a real Nirmanakaya. Otherwise, they're simply not good enough to be a guru. They simply are not good enough. He's not saying that, I'll say that. And so they have qualities that have followed them from previous lives. It's not just what they've learned in this life. And Rinpoche said, this he did say, there are two types of qualities. Qualities that come from learning and training in this life, and we all do our best to develop some of those. And then there's the qualities which you're born with. In the case of a Nirmanakaya, they are born with an natural, innate realization of the view and meditation that takes very little, relatively little process compared to us to be brought to the surface. Without that, the simple training in this life is not going to be enough to make someone a qualified teacher. So with the devotion of certainty, think that he is a Rupakaya displayed by the victors, the Buddhas, in order to care for you. His love is like that of a father for his children. He stretches out his hand and protects you from birth, aging, sickness, and death in this life, and bad migrations in future lives. Pray that he do so. So that's about the guru's body, which means the guru's identity, who the guru is. And that's about dealing with our tendency to think, but he's just like me, because he has parents and stuff and came from such and such family and so on. Then we have another issue that has to be dealt with, which is that we talk with the guru. We have conversations. It's not simply that he gives us empowerments and teaches or reads books to us or something like that. We have conversations. And we cannot help but notice that the guru talks a lot like the way we do. He uses the same words, he speaks the same language, or via an interpreter communicates with us. And it's natural for us to therefore assume, well, he sounds kind of ordinary. I mean, he doesn't really sound that holy to me. So the next part of the prayer addresses this. In appearance, in being's eyes, you are a friend who remains in their company. You even seem to speak, teach, and listen as an equal. The guru acts as though he is our equal. Gurus don't put themselves on high thrones. We put them on thrones. They try to stay down. We put them up. They're not arrogant. Gurus are never arrogant. Yet your behavior is not the emotional search for pleasure of ordinary grasping at objects and fixation on a subject. You are definitely grabbing beings with the hook of bliss emptiness in order to hold them with holy compassion. Now, with a pure outlook toward his speech, pray that he care for your three gates, especially your speech. With fierce longing, think that although he appears to befriend you and others and speak of good and bad as you do, he really has no solid, independent fixation on desirable qualities. Desirable qualities means stuff that we want. Pleasure. Nice things to see, nice things to hear, nice things to smell, to taste, and tactile sensations. He is caring for us compassionately and skillfully. Believing that, pray that he protect you without an instant's apathy, like a mother caring for her beloved child. The key point here, Rinpoche said, is fixation and solidification. If the key point of the difference between the guru's identity and ours is that he or she is born intentionally and is unselfish and has indwelling realization, the key point of the difference between the guru's speech and our speech is that the guru may talk the way we do. If we start a conversation with the guru about something, they're not going to snub us. They'll talk to us. Well, sometimes they might snub us. In my case, because I go too far. But anyway. But the difference is when we express our opinions, they are solid. If the guru is an Nirmanakaya, their opinions, their feelings are not solid. Like Naropa said about Marpa, you will appear to others as having kleshas so solid they're carved in stone. But in reality, your kleshas will be like designs drawn on the surface of water. That's the difference. So the guru may talk the way we talk, but there isn't the same fixation, solidification. And then the prayer continues. My longing for you is also not ordinary. I pray to you with trust. Don't let me escape from your able hook. The metaphor for the relationship between compassion and faith or devotion is that our devotion makes us like a ring, and the guru's compassion is like a hook that can grab or snare that ring. If we lack devotion, we're more like an iron ball that can't be captured by a hook. All beings of the 6 types are just like me. Don't let them fall into the abyss of bad karma and bad migration. With great compassion, be a mother to them. When we think about you, you seem to love, feel, and need as we do. You even seem to have thoughts of good and bad. This is about the Guru's mind. And to be attached to those close to you. Yet, if we consider that you experience what is solid for us as dreamlike and illusory, it is certain that your behavior is how you lovingly care for us in your wisdom. I pray to you with trust and devotion from the very center of my heart. Mix your mind and mine as one. I beg you to never abandon me for an instant in this life, future lives, and the intervals between them. May the devotion that sees whatever you do as good flourish in me. May I serve you by taking whatever you say to be true. When longing for the unity of the Guru and my mind blazes unbearably, bestow supreme and common siddhi through entering your blessings into my heart. With a pure outlook toward his mind, pray that he compassionately care for your three gates, especially your mind, in this life, future lives, and in between. Although he appears to share your way of life, loving, feeling affection, hoping, thinking of good and bad, socializing, conceptualizing, and craving things, he is without solid fixation. Because he sees all dharmas, all things, as dreams or magical illusions, it is certain that his behavior is the kind sharing of his disciples' lot for being's benefit. In other words, the Guru has to seem like us, or there's no way we could relate to him. We wouldn't be inspired. The figure would be so distant that we would find him or her utterly unapproachable and unrelatable. By praying one pointedly to your Guru from the depths of your heart, with the belief that he is a Buddha and that he is all-sufficient, there will no longer be any border between your Guru's mind and your mind. You will no longer think of them as two things. Mixing his mind and yours, he and you will be beyond even an instant's separation. Because you pray to your root Guru as the supreme embodiment of knowledge, kindness, and power, as an infallible protector and refuge, you will see, naturally, whatever he does as good. You will hold whatever he says to be true. In the present, you will accomplish ninefold pleasing service to your Guru. Ultimately, I think ninefold just means a lot. Every, like we use the word, a 10,000 is a myriad, and we use myriad to mean just lots and lots. In Tibetan, it's ninefold, just means lots or many. You will accomplish ninefold pleasing service to your Guru. Ultimately, because self-arisen, unfabricated, unbearable devotion has been born within you, your Guru's blessings will enter your heart. All the profound, supreme, and common siddhis will reach your hands. You will achieve the state of your Guru, great Vajradhara. That is your aspiration and prayer. So that is the fifth part of the practice, praying to the Guru while reminding yourself of the difference of why you're praying to him, the difference between his or her body, speech, and mind and your own.
Lama Jambok Quartang, Ladok Qual, They in the Kapsala Penang Arana take the Narang Yamyonta, Comek Yamyonta would take Sajik. That Ganas share Sayake, then the Banda of Chonsons. Then they tell a Kadere Sena so sick as Savat Lama Tetang, Lama can never sing in Mexig Shepherd and Papa today. Benata Karmapa double chill Chaya by Nas, and also pay just a less like the Tendos, Tamak Bungi or days. Jeret and Nicolo, Jevo Tamba Yondo, Penna, Tamje Chambata, or then I get Ning make Uzi, Meling Tejenta, Sajako on the Sajako Mata, or then I get Lama Chambo Yonsu Zopa. Mambo Yori, Tondo Gange can send it down the one and to take the down so Mavanda Yori. They in the Capsulata, so Jupiter Lama tea, Stab Lama to Jupiter Lama ne, Saint Dana. Take such a less labo Yori, you say tell a thing that Jupiter Lama Ganane Jang, so Stab Lama. Stab Lama Ganane Jang, Hajan, Geta. Deva Chesana Bochi in the Capsulata, Tela, Tempega Guanum. Pena Peshuai. They in the Tepatang, Tamsik, Lam Singate, Mixik, Sanam Jedi, Chepat the Purpose, Sanga Dojetic, Sanam Jedi. The Kade de or Sena, Pena Kama Pandavachilla Chaja Bayana, Lama Nakiramari, Yata, the Teta, the Bomta Yodi, Mambo Yodi, on the Tanegala, Karmapa Koto, Nadam Geredik, and Zepa Tenela, Samo Tawayina, Naran Soke Pena, Lola, Shamus upon our Yodi. Yodi, the Inaya, taken Nani, Kaga Saji, Tanya Hogan Devanda was the Zote, Somatel Rale the Yodi. Lama la tepa the Mugu Sinkinte, so la Kevin Tondala, Mato Jig Lama Mari, Mambo Jig Telenka to Sola, Ta Tanda Kone Sombatavori, one sending Lama Mambo Pebu Yori, or tending on a Taneta, ranking Lama Telenka to So, La Mambo Pebu Yori, one a Tani. The Carreri send a love on a lama tobanda was in the Yungu Yorete. Tan sending Lama Chilla Pecha, Yena, Slome get Tepa Mugu Savati, telling on a tane, Ran Howala, ne, Howatini, Tar, Tomje Chamber, Coma top, Semje Tomjela, Pende, Lana Mepajik, take topic in Nipachin to go your days. Tell the what is. Te Godu Capsula, Katan Shubata Dolangaran, Sola Sanjek in Himbo Yona Yang, Yomo Tongege, Ta Kora Dipsomari, Tanda Tonga one the show the Mato Cheke, Tene Choco and Janjario Maris, Te Manja to Capsula, Tene Lama Tela, Meche Tepata, Meche Sondrutan. Tene Shabdo Guroke Gone Dropa La Sopege, Gone get Tedeng, Shabchik and Dropa Yena, Gone Taneg, Lame Tujuki, Yeshe take Nupala Tene, Rang Simjuki Yeshe, Yemepal and John Robek Capsula, Lameke Koson Toki Chenab Show, Rang Lunga is Min Drop Capsula, Gone Taneg, Rank Yena Yampena, Teta to Nupatin Yuki Yodis, Pena. Java Topo Sanji, Jamden Deck, Homa, Tambo Jigla, Jorvik Capsula, Shaka Tupchin J. Yom Capsula, Tini, taking here by check with Jenda, Hoda got to say that he comes. Check and Sanjo Zambo Jenda was and Nakona Dason Jura Show and Saga Combo Jida, Sonyam Jenda Pia Men, Saga Combo Pua and Lojunan Yordis. Therefore, la Tene, that and they can Sanjay Jamden, the Senzambo, Sumjutani, the Pedi Zambo Jejo. The Bachuni Kitini and Rodon Tenle Ganga and Zets about the Chumara. That Tabake, you intend the Rana Yori, one get that came from himself at the day. Then it took gave a shame taken on it, Lama Tombachi and Java Yena. Then it take Kora Lagun Tella Yopeke, Kora Social Yopi, Yonting on the Churiachi Mato. Then it met by Yen and start watching another Sun Ray Matis. Or Teta on the Chuya Tela, then it Lama la Tepachi, Lama la Kupachi, Lama la Muguchi, Seven Capsula. Got a chicken now, Lama Telata, Tepa Gogendo, Moba Gogendo, Mugu Gogendo, Koran saw the Chambotabu Gogendo, Salmon to hear Yoris. The Enaya, send it the Dembe with Tambachi in a ta. Take and Dapa, the San Hamon the Pong Savary. Jitin Chujik, Trupa, the Tar Savary, Pena Melade Pekin Goganana, Tenikora, Trechen Gola Yogata, Tegna, Tuka Poya, the Tondo, Chegi Yana, Johnson, the Tate, Kora Tawan in the Pong Savay, and the Penasimu Pedal Sonyo days. That I will read the Yoring on the Taneg, Kora, Jitin Chujik, Yons of a Pong Savage, with Sambatella. Yojang Rong Deva, Mejang Rong Deva, Che Tawan in the Mevachik Sala Yog the Yod, in the Capsula, Rang Miki Sonum so Sayagaton, Ming me Yishik so Sayagaton, Tapa the Tom Jin Chamber Combat on the Tapa Jabaton, then a Chanjok Sandom Boy Chapat Papa, Jula Chavar Jabaton, the La, Randon Konig Tondola, Tini Lama Tela. They just set up things, Jamne said to us. They just set up things, Jamne said they were on their turn around, Tapa the Tomji Chimba, Tatuk Lana Mepacoma, Togo, tell a thing, and the Chima set up on Jamne and Tendachen and Dogo Yori, Tin Rodu Capsula, Tan Deva Chechon, Candid, Zone, that was it. So Galara at the Yori. La de the yore the penata, Terchen Barway Dorje Karmapa Sumba Ranyo Dorje Passion La Pep Yaba Robert Dorje Sur Tendo Nang took up the Toga Wade
La
Sumba Ranyo Dorje Pa
Rere, there goes on. Terchen
Josum Dundo Dorje
La
Josum Dundo Dorje Gonda Josum Dundo Dorje Shen La Pep you think your Dorje so Tendo Nam Gabda from Towades. That to the Gabsala that, and Kona Terchen Konik Namdana, Zewayena, Tani Yanda Mandava Konik, Monam Chepat Papa Mambo Tabi, Logi Yore, Tina. Tepe Masiba Tabi, Logi Yore. That Tetabe, Sunday, the Honam Singing, the Hona, some we can tell a thing. Tambado Nipik Gabda Wachena, on it, Tani Yamarik Dorje Konik. To ni ta cho ne tene paung ne hyo de be ka so la ta wa ni ne hyo ma cho ne nget cha lan do ko song ne tene the so ma chen de ji the ba tam da ma se ba che ke ta khona ning ke phen su ke de ba da bo se la ngon ne tha ne ke ta yin ba ju ke nam tha na la khona ye na ten de ha ko ge ta khona pe ma se pa ke de ba sa bo tam de ma se tene cho ta nga ra ni la yewa me ba yin se ne yin no khon rang ke shen ne song ya de mon ne nga ra ni la tu jon do ya da wa me ba sen de yin sen de chen no song ya de te ta bu ke thok jen da bo che chong wa de te ngon ne da ne yin ba do khon ne ke ta yi me che pe te ba de mo ko yo pe jon sen la ten ne da wa chong wa de ma do che ke te ga sa the bi wa da bo ma de Tangaran Davo Chela Yenaya, Kasan Kone Shuba Dabri, One Taneta, Java Kaju, Jason Juba, Edisena, Jason Jubari. Toko Edisenata, Java Doji, Toko Inson de Casala, Marisha, Yomari, and the Red Yoris. Red Yoret in Inayata, Shepherd and Papachi, Indisena, Jaja Jastambangana, Range, Shepherd and Papachi in Sawan in the Tangamando. One attack. Ta Nyame Tapo Kajoki, Jason Joke, Tashalwaji, Yin Tempekan Dushe Mato Chigi, Shepherd change in Tempekan Dushe, and Alana Tawaj in the maze. Met in Ayata, Yawantik Doji Kotila, Tene Melojodo Kerina, Tashachi Show, Slobjon So, Tende Debek Kokap, Kuman Nambik took him Honam Ten and Alana Chungari, Te Chunga Capsula. One Taneg, Lameke, Chinap, a Lameke, Nupa, Lameke, Zejo number not so Bangaki, and tending Jason, Rana Changag, song Yabayan, Tonzo in a tata and the Shoga Jumse Kamino. And I am Zabanda Wachilla, Chai Yabayan, one Tane Zaba read it now the Paro Kandete Yabayana, take a similar to Yons Zabate. King Sima Tada la Tende Gonsong Sambandabu, Tendek Kora, the Sheko Vandabo. Narana song you come down Yenaya. So Sugan Nang sang Nomto Kare Yoba Yenaya. Sick Yashumena Telakora, Tata, young Wandabo, Netan the dead, the death on the Tende Yori. Just here, Mazipa Jigget, Yina Parik Dorje Davo Yenaya, on the Tane, Takoro, Jevan Sarah Tamjela, Teni, and Dawa Mapa Yin Sone, Narang Payana Gosen, one nation. Korako Yo de Capsula Shunyo, Nicola Yawan, Yawa Sarah Tamjit and Dawa Mapa. Shunyo, Konega, Terran Dick, Send Sonyo, that Tendeg, Jomsen Latene, Takora Teba, Tomsek, Ten, on a Tasha Mason and Davojik. In some beginning around the Shepherd Papa years. In a young Ara, Jewa Tamba in town, he on saying that Tenet in some begin to sing on the Yomaris. That day, Tabodi, Tay in the capsula, some get Tebek and Lam and Robert capsula, Tepamu, Shepherd and Papa Chick. So get setting a Sava Lama Kande, Jet Topa in a young. That Tela, Koran, Chinap, Munjuba, Masi Bandabores, that they told the Yagu the Hidaka Karchen Bores, Masi Bandabore, Penna, Ta Nyame at Dajuji Jabba Mapa Losanda Wajil Chayana, Tene Melade Begeta, Dajuki Jabba Mapa Losa Kala Yon, the Sene, on the capsula, Tilla Yonkin Tamjik, Marba Singing Jigatini, Pe Metani, Nyamo Chembo, Dangzi Chembo, said Mambo Gonkin, Jimmy Mambo Tendechik, Gendushi Yagi Yor Mado, Maba Lota was thinking the such Yomaris, Dilumban Yomaris. Marba Singing Jigata, Tendechik, Jedinke Yoris and the Labadi, or Tige Takona, Tilla Yopek, Metamjik. Tabata Mugustawa in Maji Peg Kansa take, then get the Melade Peg Konik Tabata Mugudo, the Mepeg Nupatang, get Kankota, Mapa Losage on Tatoga Yeshe on the Chubik Nupatella Tane, don't you say it on Tanya Tapo Kajus in the Tanda Para, Machi Pala, Koran Yok de Debateta, Te Tabaki Johnson, then Chumada was. Indu capsula one tela randon chapar pagbatang randon dumne yendon dobar chapar pagbalam te ta te bat mugu kalam tere.
In the context of this topic, and in the greater context, a more general context of discussing this prayer too, and this gurusadhana of Terchen Barway Dorje, I would like to share with you some of my experience of how this actually functions, devotion to and faith in one's root guru. First of all, let me say that the connection between a root guru and a disciple, a qualified guru and a devoted disciple, is unique. There's nothing else in our lives that can replace this. We could really use any authentic qualified guru as an example in discussing this. I'm going to use His Holiness the Karmapa because he's well known to all of us. Of course, there are many other qualified gurus as well, such as His Holiness the Dalai Lama, His Holiness Minling Trichen, the head of the Nyingma school, His Holiness Sakya Trizin, the head of the Sakya school, and many others as well. But it's probably easiest if I place my remarks in the context of the one to whom we're the most connected and to whom I am, as the 16th Karmapa was my root guru, the most connected. The point is that the secret of what actually brings you, what actually leads you out of samsara and brings you to liberation and Buddhahood is your faith and your samaya with your guru. Throughout the centuries, in his successive rebirths, the Karmapa has had thousands and thousands and thousands of disciples, more than we could imagine or contain in our minds. And in each case, the outcome of that particular disciple's relationship with their guru has depended on that individual disciple's faith and devotion. The Karmapa's blessing is given freely to all, but our receptivity to it depends upon our own faith. In this context, it's important to point out, and therefore for us to keep in mind as well, that our connection, our forming of and maintenance of our connection with our gurus is for our benefit, not for theirs. Nowadays, there are lots of spiritual teachers, lots of people who call themselves gurus, and or even if they don't use the word, act as gurus. Some of them are the real thing, are qualified. Some of them are hard to tell. But to be the real thing, to be qualified to be a guru, you must have two things. You must have the intention to really lead others to liberation. That has to be your overriding intention. You can't be being a guru for your own benefit. You can't be a guru just to maintain an institution, to become wealthy, to be able to sit on a high throne. And the second thing is you also have to have the actual ability to do it. You cannot or should not be a guru if you cannot lead those who depend on you to liberation. You can't be a lifeguard if you can't swim. But if the guru is the real thing, and the disciples' devotion is real, not just pretend, then all of the attributes of their guru's body, speech, and mind will ripen within them. To an extraordinarily precise degree. For example, the Buddha Shakyamuni, was once asked what caused his exact circumstances, why he was born in the clan called Shakya, and therefore was called Sage of the Shakyas or Shakyamuni, what determined his lifespan and the number of his disciples and all of this. And he told the story that at one time, countless lifetimes ago, he'd been born as an impoverished person who, as a child or adolescent, encountered a previous Buddha called Mahashakyamuni, great sage of the Shakyas. And utterly impressed by that previous Buddha, and having nothing else to offer him, he offered him a clod of earth, but with the aspiration, great Buddha, may I, in the future, through making this offering, come to have a name like yours, a form like yours, an entourage, lifespan, and teachings like yours. And that it was as a result of that when he became a Buddha, he was born in a clan with the same name, Shakya, and became Shakyamuni Buddha, taught what he taught, and had the disciples and lifespan that he did. Now, as I mentioned yesterday, all of these qualities of Buddhahood, all of these attributes, including the ripening within us of the qualities of our guru's body, speech, and mind, are really innate within us. They're there already. But it takes a condition, the right condition, to cause them to manifest. And as Lord Gyamtso wrote in the Jewel Ornament of Liberation, that condition is our interaction with our spiritual friend, our guru. So therefore, the cause of Buddhahood is innate. We're not trying to create that cause. We're trying to provide the condition for those innate attributes to be revealed. And that condition is provided by our faith and devotion to an authentic, a qualified guru. Nevertheless, in a sense, it's awkward to talk about the importance of devotion to gurus. When gurus or lamas talk about this, it all sounds very self-serving. Even if we qualify what we're saying, as I have, by saying, oh, no, I'm not talking about myself, I'm talking about perfect qualified gurus, it still sounds like we're saying, serve our club, the Guru Club. We'll save you. And this is why the difference between a qualified guru and an unqualified guru is so important. Because if the guru is qualified, if they're genuine, if they have the intention and the ability that I specified a few minutes ago, they long ago lost any desire for respect, position, service, obedience, control, or gain of any kind. For example, when Jitsen Milarepa was asked by his sister why he didn't do what other lamas were doing at the time and walk around with parasols held over his head and musicians in front and behind and sit on a high throne and wear nice clothes instead of sitting around basically naked, he said, I could have all of that if I wanted it, but I have no interest whatsoever in that garbage. The attitude, therefore, that gurus have to have is, if they are accorded respect and veneration and whatnot, they have to be able to put up with it, because it's for the good of others. But they can't want it, and they can't resent not having it. So we serve and respect our teachers for our own good and not for theirs. We do so not as some kind of mercantile exchange. If I put you on a high throne, then you'll save me. We do so spontaneously because of our appreciation for those who are helping lead us out of samsara. But the result and the lasting nature of the connection we form with our gurus is far more than we may realize. In the case of Terchen Barway Dorje, he became active around the time of the enthronement of the 14th Jawan Karmapa, Tekchuk Dorje, whom he assisted and served, and with whom he became very closely associated. As a result, aspirations were made by both of them at that time that have ripened in his successive lifetimes. For example, those of you who have read is it called The Light of Dawn? Can't remember. The biography of the second Barway Dorje, The Light of Dawn? Okay. Those of you who have, it's a case of the left brain not knowing what the right brain is doing, kind of. Those of you who've read The Light of Dawn will know this, that the 16th Karmapa's personal connection with the second Bardor Rinpoche was so close that as the 16th Karmapa, they were unable to stand being apart. And the 16th Karmapa said to the second Bardor Rinpoche, we are utterly inseparable. Now, that brings us to me, the third Bardor Rinpoche. As I've said, I don't think of myself as great or special. If you ask, am I a follower of the Kagyu? I say yes. I regard myself as the worst follower of this tradition, but I do follow it. If you ask, am I a Tulku? Well, as I said yesterday, lacking any supercognition, I'm in no position to argue with my guru, the 16th Karmapa, who recognized me as the third Bardor Rinpoche. So I'd have to say, okay, yes, if you insist. I'm a Tulku, fine. If you ask, am I wonderful? Am I great? Am I better than everybody else? I don't see myself that way. As I said, I see myself as the least of the followers, the worst follower of the Dokpo Kagyu. But I've seen amazing things. I've seen the Karmapa perform amazing deeds and say amazing things. I've seen him prove repeatedly that he knew my thoughts before I spoke them. And before my guru, the 16th Karmapa, passed away, I asked him that we be inseparable in every future lifetime, and he promised. So I have unshakable confidence, certain confidence in that. But I have no perception of myself as especially great, as possessing any extraordinary qualities of body, speech, mind, virtue, or activity that deserve worship or celebration. What I can tell you, based on my own experience, is that if you pray with real devotion to a qualified guru, it is utterly impossible that you not receive his or her blessing. But gurus, qualified gurus, are not necessarily the ones that look the best on the outside. The best example of this in our tradition is Lord Marpa, the translator. When Jetsun Milarepa had first heard Marpa's name and went to Marpa's farm looking for him, as he was getting close, he asked people in the area, Marpa's neighbors in Lodrog, where was the farm and dwelling of the great and venerable Lord Marpa, the translator. And they looked at him as if he was crazy, and whoever it was that he asked, and said, well, okay, I've never heard of anybody called the great and venerable Lord Marpa, the translator. There is an old coot named Marpa. He's kind of an unpleasant, quarrelsome person. He's very greedy. He drives a hard bargain if you have anything to do with him. And he's got a wife and a whole bunch of women living with him in that house of his, and lots of kids, and he seems to be drunk a lot. So that's the only Marpa I know. But, you know, I don't know if you really want to have anything to do with him. Well, of course, it was through his devotion to Marpa that Milarepa achieved awakening, which led to the creation of what we call the Dokpo Kagyu. Because without Marpa having the ultimate wisdom, Milarepa couldn't have got it. You can't catch the flu from someone who doesn't have it. And without Milarepa, Gyamtso would not have appeared, and this lineage would not exist. So we can infer that Marpa had the ultimate wisdom. But his neighbors certainly didn't think so. They thought of him as a selfish, mean degenerate. In short, the best way we can do ourselves real good is through faith and devotion.
Karmapa Barway Dorje Karmapa Yansere, Masipa Kieva Tamba Chabat Babades. Yena Yang Tonseki Yap and Yumte, Jo Chembo, Wang Chembo, Kas Tembo, Tendel and Tonsquadis. Take a Gagin Sola 고용 풀리가 원샷다는 마정말이 대자다 다 코나 고용 따와지는 요 말이 생긴 요리 그러나 나나 망고 해요 요래때 나라 협대be 값을라 초니강엔 통송 초니강엔 통송 간대제는 통송세나 잠 찍라 가왕 나오게 값을라 오늘 다네게 다 착배스로 무서 전시 찍 야표나 아커를 되게 야버리게 문도 연바도 거기서 대야시 되게 되게 문도 현다 거기서 이제 단도 안인 운세는 되는 바제 로데 맞았어 근데 난 그래 전세 값을 나란다 보시나 남도 간 거서라 오다 되는 알마 난 자기는 내 돈나 뜻은 저 삼바트는 게 남도 허냐 다 가래라 오늘 다는 게 요래 때 거로 송원의 값을 파체를 진 싸워니는 되니 차별라서 마고와 되는 되니 거로 타다 다는 거나 송동게인데 요래 제 값을은 아테 근데 그거는 까마빠 뇌이 근데 그 제가 따본 독삼네 엄살제 공개했는데 요래 단데 전에 차이잡 값을라 라메겐 도돈 틀레데 라메게 대바 먹을라 텐디라레겐도 다 대바 점세시다 맹행게 강산다 오지 코티게 나는 요나 다 되니 송야라 깔레 가고 대야 매바 되니 걸어 텐데게 남다 나 속과데 텐데 티갑래 용되겐도 오늘게 코티게 나나 대바다 점세 댐바 현다 만다 와치 여바 yen나 자와 적고 산지 점된데 기타 투결라 옆에 연대 선나야로 초고 도진 향라 옆에 그 투결라 옆에 연대 선나야로 대 용스도바 탐제대 다 소스게 된지 따발라마테기 코란 고송 토라 차 상마테 본바 간주 그서도 욕대 바제레 마도 제게 텔라노 슈바지 매판다고 된데 그나 나오지나는 도시 용거도 가래래 세나 다 잠잠나 오늘 다네게 제 톡톡과 매베 그 값을라 털종의 흉심 보송 그래 대송용의 값을라 오늘 다네게 거나 내 마음 다다 뒤송 남잔다고 랑텔라 땡겨봐다고 송야요 돼 빼나 빼지 야네 다 휴바이나 다 하모 아티 야가게 자네라 첨보지가 범어진 형도 년반 년나리는 라과 예 용네 되니 망매 포사 니데 사긴 조조 단도 단 마서버체는 효용 같은 데진도 이나 부꾼들 짜송 제 짜도 값을라더니 코란선 인조다 자가 다 운다보네도 딜린도 간데 있는 찍네도 땡허 살아 코란서 다 자가 소총원을 송하는도 로종원라 손도
보모데게
보모체도 남메
ngoma게 sama lochola
말말 코란서 말말 코란서 데사데 딜레데레노 옛날에 단잠단로 추천도 그러와 공생다 코란서 로조를 신도와 로조네 다 코란 데스인데 좀 코발 효노와 대 효네 되는 뭐나 맞아와 찬도와 맞아와 찬네 대 얘는 कोठेला लेब संगना सते दु गोंदा महाकाल दोन योरे महाकाल पता या कोठेला चार सं तने ओने मांग में ये किन जो दे थबला मासब लसोन या कुंद और एंडे चांग दा चिंगे तले चिंदो तने कुंद के एंडे चन दे नि दे सोंदो के दाम सोआ जोगंदे जोगते एंडे दा एंडे नि सोंदो के दाम ओ दे लाकपा निका लाबा येंग जोगनिका तने कांड नांसो ता चो खाले योंआई खाले गोगी योसेने कांड नांसो ngoने ngara so mel ke ja she anda bondo te ka a tene moran ke jaga socho ge mora ke jaga socho ke sik jik she ma re se do ena jaga socho ke jam ni shu so koran so ke na la jaga socho ke mang me do te ke ju zo thu ge do ma to te me na ko ya re me do shu ne tin tang ha tin de chen lo dan ja ra mang bo chi la to kwan lu ka le ka wo cha sa ju me thong ju me Tendechen the Lusoma jeans, then Konzo Gel and the Daching top songs. That Konzo la Chiri in those take one lagun those. That you never gone to get in the Chiri in a chocolate day cho song that and the Chiri in sort of yen and non songs. Then now that Gamma showing those more. They said it then under Gomaris, 10 Maris. That one I said a carry go into Sena, Marana Punja Pochung in the was. That thing the cock cheated in those. Then you get so the go on that. Oh, that it then the Gamaris, Choran and Yamatan is on the Tenny Chesset, Namnek part of the tennis, Seba Mepigatini, Suncho, Narang, Hoa zone, Choran taking. Say Choran Lenge and the land of Mato, taking the tongue around Jaw.
Sur.
Oh, sir. Seba Mepa taking his home. Mato take a 10 years and I get Jaw la young can't take. Saying the capsule that's it, and I'm there and take Maris and the songs. Then the Yama Mango, just on the Tamata taking decks and the show songs. Taking decks and the show, you never connect a cargo getting now. Then it Ganzo sort down, then it and that chain. Lord J. Such a gene is so moran left on the theatre castle, Devo Dejan, Tango
Lojigigela.
Lord Yeshe, you know. Devo Dejan, Tango Tangan, and that's a lemnos. What that day, that one naked, that's what I Zumi get that Tandola in I and they get Gago not to those. Tell that one mango is, I can that's why I am married.
Of course, Marpa may seem like an extreme example, but this kind of difference between the perception of those with faith and the perception of those without it occurs all the time. For example, in the case of my own guru, the 16th Karmapa, Barway Dorje, there were many people who would say about him, well, yes, he is the Karmapa, he is the rebirth of the previous Karmapa, but because he was born to a wealthy and powerful family in eastern Tibet, and they were very bossy or controlling, his tutors were powerless to teach him and guide him properly. So he's not really very learned, is he? And I know that people held this opinion about him because people said it even to me, one of his disciples and attendants. Well, as for whether the 16th Karmapa was learned or not, I saw him behave both ways, as supremely learned and as apparently unlearned. And I think it depended upon the disciples who were around. Sometimes he would be giving an empowerment, and he would look at the text and frown and seem unable to read it and ask for his glasses and put them on, still be unable to read it and say, no, these glasses are no good. Give me other ones, stronger ones. And then he'd put on stronger ones, and still he would seem to have difficulty reading through the text. In such situations, I, acting as his attendant, would sometimes think, oh, I wish he would just give me the text and let me read it so we can get this over with. At other times, he seemed hardly to need the text. He seemed to have the text entirely by memory, and he would just glance at it now and then and give the empowerment with no mention of glasses or difficulty in reading or any kind of thing like that. I think the answer to this disparity that we observe in authentic, genuine gurus is that how they manifest really depends upon the degree of faith in the disciples present. If there's a lack of faith in those present, then they may seem unable to even think of anything to say when giving a teaching. And if there is a group of people with faith, then they will be like Vajradhara in person and able to transmit the blessings and wisdom of Vajradhara to their disciples. I also observed that the 16th Karmapa would often, especially at unguarded moments when he, without thinking, say extraordinary things that turned out to be prophecies of unknown past or future events or present events unknown at that place. I'll tell you one story of something that I saw myself. One, I could give you countless such stories, but we'll just stick to one. The daughter of an Indian army general became suddenly crazy. And she was so ill all of a sudden that two strong men, and actually when I saw her for the first time, 4 soldiers, could barely restrain her. The family was from central India, Delhi or somewhere near there, but they had recently gone on vacation to South India. And what had happened was that in South India, the daughter had had invaded and possessed, as is said in English, by a spirit that was desperate to get its needs met. She was brought to see His Holiness while we were chanting Mahakala, and he stopped in the middle, interrupted, and the girl was brought in, restrained, partially restrained, by 4 soldiers. He caused her ring fingers on both hands to be bound with protection cords. And then he started asking the spirit that he recognized, the Karmapa recognized to be inside her, questions. Basically, who are you and what do you want? Now, interestingly, because the girl was from central India, she spoke no dialect. She did not speak the dialect used in the part of South India that they'd been. But the spirit answered His Holiness in that South Indian dialect, speaking through the girl. Fortunately, one of the soldiers who was restraining her was from South India and could translate. The spirit identified himself as a being that for hundreds of years had gone hungry and said, as for what I want, all I want is 2 candies. Well, His Holiness said, that's easy, and he presented 2 candies. And the spirit, the girl with the spirit inside her, laughed and said, those are not the kind of candies I want. It turned out that what the spirit wanted was the lives of the 2 younger brothers, small boys, of the girl he had invaded and possessed. Well, when he said that that was what he wanted, then His Holiness said, no, you are not getting those boys. From today on, I will give you a smoke offering that will sustain you. But those boys and this entire family are under my protection. You can't touch them. And in that way, they negotiated for a while. Eventually, of course, the spirit accepted His Holiness's terms and left. We performed the sur, the burnt, singed offering for the spirit's benefit that night. And then around 4 years later, the girl came back and was almost unrecognizably different. She was fine with that, had not had any problems thereafter. Well, that's one of countless stories I could tell you but won't about the 16th Karmapa's supercognition. But I will tell you one more.
Pasil legong ke bombo res. Den jom pasil legong ke bombo chesho te res. Ta tela yina boke Lama took a ya pep go to cap that Yama Karmapa, they were Mambo Yorba. That in the Kablata, Yava choking Jopon, Jopo passes or chain, Jopon, Jopo visited or in the Sungio Bandanwa. Then call Kalekavaris, Kalekan, Konyama Jela, Kondo Sani, Karmapa, they call the young citizen Mari in the Tibet refugee. Then I yana dona, then young passing the Hong Pombo. Tell our cock and dead chick on the magic and a cock, got none, a massive baggage in it. I want that chamber, humble sabotage in those. Then the tattering on Anki, you get your watch at 10, Yamatan is on the Ingandon, the home passing and then young passing leg on Nana, Yag, you thought to number and some meals and the side jug you on his journey. Take up in the condo san, take Korangi, got it down from there, 11 on those. You don't have to go married, Koran left songs, left the tending high years, couldn't put it later. Call a Suja Fu songs or Suja Fu, Gangang, Chawanis. You know, but that Jablo get Baran the Nala Yoga, what is Fortunal.
Noble, Fortunal.
Chilola, Fortunal Yoga, call left song. Kada Chasum say Kada Jig the Shochachi Ya Pusong. They put the gaps of Lamsa, Shochat the 30 yen. Shochat envelope. Envelope the 30 yen, Tina, good to sort down. You go to the size Jones.
So you get there, say,
Yigamadi, Ngordella, called figure. Ngordella size John, yeah, that short, when you're a child, a gully to Zochi, you get the song. There's songs had in the Kota Sandwa. You don't have to go your money. Call Tani, Shan, Tonong Meva, Kan, Shulong Meva, Chen, Jopachil and Rossum. Then Chilla Cog in Yindu, you know, Lamat in there, called Lamdua. Caught in there, and come up with the drawing. Cog Kada Chasum say Kada the Yapu. Dako the Yapu, the Tini, Pesha tell a Sai Nan, ya. That in the Mount Palachuran, Hoggery, Yapon Yara songs. This song said, oh, but send a court bed, Namshi Yarson and I don't am right to J. Younger, attend songs. That in it called Gadin Salama, Canadian drawing. Pa Korang and Nang Pa the Gatti Canadian Tamayin, San Tangamandos, Labdos, Tayamandos, and son that dig jela Korange Gyamtso, you know what the Bachambores. Then it take a stumbles on the tea on the Omachana to you Koran Honla Yon Jeda put in the Chigate Korangi Jimmy Honlata, Bogo Honlata, Kora you go the younger days. Then they can get a chen Huanos, then they young Jordis. Kora Tony Gons at the Council Laka, Nanja Yoba Yenaya. Kora Chassin Ma Nasa, the Kochasa, one of my house at Honsano. Then they young Jordis. That's it, son among what is.
Another story about the 16th Karmapa concerns a Sikkimese dekapsu de Drejong de Jaga Zamang Mazagong. Yeah. A Sikkimese government official. And this happened before Sikkim became a state within India, when it was still a separate kingdom. And this official had a high rank in the Sikkimese government and society. He was the head of that small country's passport office. Now, because His Holiness had settled at and built Rumtek Monastery, he was always asking this official and the passport office under him to prepare visas and documents and passports and so on for many lamas and tulkus. And he was always doing so, saying, please quickly get these documents ready, please rush this one, please rush that one, and so on. And the guy got really sick of it. It later turned out that his wife had great faith in His Holiness, but he wasn't particularly devoted to him. And he became offended by this and came to feel that since the Karmapa was not a Sikkimese citizen, but a guest of that country, he did not have the right to order around or boss around a high government official like him, who was a Yaba. He was a highly placed, he was basically like a nobleman in Sikkimese society. And so he wrote out a document prepared for the Karmapa's signature saying, I will hereafter never again command Yaba, whatever his name was, to quickly prepare visas or documents from the passport office for anything. And so in a rage, he got into his car and was driven to Rumtek Monastery. His Holiness saw him pull up and he asked that he be served tea and so on. Meanwhile, His Holiness was sitting out back on a balcony or porch. The guy came up to him and having to observe at least the form of respect, he did 3 prostrations and then offered a kata, an envelope with some money in it, to His Holiness before giving him the document that he wanted him to sign. Well, His Holiness opened the envelope and took out one of the bills and signed it and handed it back to him and said, keep this, you're going to need it. And according to this man's, the government official's account of what happened, when His Holiness did that, he felt as though his mind was leaving his body. He was so overcome. Rinpoche said it's like when you're so terrified that you're frozen like a deer in the headlights. And when he was telling people the story, he said, I have no memory of what happened next. I know that I must have gotten back into the car and been driven back to my office, but I have no memory of the drive from Rumtek to Gangtok or getting into my car or any of that. And of course, afterwards, we realized that the guy had not had much faith in the Karmapa. It was his wife who did. And whenever the family came to see the Karmapa, he would hang back, and the wife would go first, and then he'd push the kids ahead of him and be the last one to greet him. Oh, yeah. So we'll stop there for this morning, conclude with dedication and aspirations.
Sonam
Yeshe
Tamba Gonya Toba
Rinpoche Maje Banam Jemba Nyamba Meba Don Gonne Gondo
Ampewala Sho Semje Samje Detan Denjoche Ngenro Samje Dado Dombara Chanjo Samba Kanda Sayo Teta Gonje Mono Thank you. Thank you.